Hi guys, my name is Christina and welcome to my channel today. Wait. Oh, windows open. I don't want my neighbors to know I do this. Never mind. Okay. Hi guys, my name is Christina and welcome to my channel. Today is an interesting day. One of those days, when stuff is really not going right and it makes you think. Thoughts that you usually don't think, more of on a deeper level. So that what happened to me today. I had a very weird night. My dog got food poison and yeah, all night she was waking me up. I had to walk her and yeah, I'm still worried. I'm still watching her, making sure she drinks water. She's still not okay. I had to take a sick day at work to make sure my dog is fine, and we have a lot of work at work and there is no good decision I could make, really. I either have to not show up at work to help my team, or should just leave my poison dog at home and hope she's alive when I return. Yeah, I'm also sleep deprived because I slept possibly like 2 hours total tonight. So it made me think, so I decided to record a video spontaneously, that's not planned. It's gonna be even worse than all my other videos. But I started thinking about the topic of story structure and life, basically, and how story structure relates to us trying to explain our own life. Hear me out. What I mean by story structure, when I say basically, I use it as a roughly term for all the books and ideas out there of how to structure your story. Like typical would be 3-act structure. There can be like different. There's, I think, in Save the Cat book, it gives even more points of how your story should progress. Nowadays, this idea became very popular to structure your story as you would a movie. And as we can see, movies, they do have a formula. And now books, they try to mimic this. I don't think books always had that. They were more freestyle, but because people now want efficiency, now there's a lot of different resources about how to structure your story, how to do all those 3 acts, how your character should go, like they start in one place, then it's call for action, then the hero accepts the journey, then then hero fails and he has his darkest moment, and then he makes the final decision. He really decides to step in his own power, and ta-da, he wins and story ends and blah blah. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. There are a lot of videos on YouTube. There is, for example, the book that I have is like the Anatomy of the Story. Anatomy of Story by John Ruby. And I read it. I never thought about the idea that you have to structure your story like this. It's only when I moved to Canada, here in English-speaking world, everybody's so obsessed with this efficiency of telling the story. And a lot of books nowadays, a lot of commercial books, they try to be like movies, very efficient, so everybody understands what's up. When you read the book, you already expect what's going to happen to characters eventually. There may be a twist, like they die and they don't die and but the structure is usually the same. And and I kept hearing people using that. There was a lot of people on YouTube who are writers and they use all these ideas. And I never thought that, I heard them doing it and I was like, but why are you all using the same kind of concept of structuring the story? I don't know, how I would read books. I would consume all the different stories and I would think, well, I try to understand why story works, why story delivers something important. And to me, it never came to the idea of any sort of structure. So I decided to investigate this whole idea. And for example, I read this book, The Anatomy of Story, and that got me thinking about a lot of things. So the structures that people suggest to use for all the stories, I feel they're not meant for the story to be efficient. They meant for people to come to terms with events that happen in their own life. I'll try to explain what I mean. Usually, life is very contrast experience. You have good things happen to you, you have very bad things happen to you. And bad things usually tend to change you the most, because obviously when you're in a bad situation, you want to create change. You want to do something to get in a better place. And you work hard, and usually when people reflect on their life, they say, well, okay, that happened, but you know what, I grew so much as a person, and if that never happened, I would never be where I am now. And we make this connection later on, and I totally agree that usually this is how it is. And looking back on my own life, I see bad situation, I'm like, you know what, because of that I'm here. Because that was the moment I also decided to change something major in my life. And I feel like now, with all this story structure concepts, what writers are trying to do and what readers are seeking is not necessarily looking for the story that can deliver you some interesting information, some interesting point, but rather the story that can tell them it's okay. If bad things happen, it's for a reason. Because usually how the stories go, it is indeed character starts the journey, something usually negative triggers it, character slowly becomes like steps into their power, and then there is a moment where everything seems lost, and from this point on, character embraces his new identity, and he, you know, gets to his final challenge and he wins. It's like stories seem to tell us one thing mostly: don't give up, keep going, bad things happen for a reason, and if you keep going, if you work hard, you're gonna succeed, you know? And it's like you see every, like, a lot of movies and books lately, no matter what they're actually about, they have this secondary story always in them. And I think, I don't think we need that. It's like we're packing a little motivational speech in our stories, while not every story should have it, and we don't have to. I'm a little confused why the stories have this motivational speech. Why don't we obviously understand that, yeah, events do change us, and when we consume story, it doesn't have to always tell us don't give up. It's just showing us the slice of life of a character, and it's up to us to decide what it is. And actually, I think it's also healthy to know that there are different situations that can happen to characters and to people in real life that not necessarily lead to decision, just don't give up. Sometimes they say, well, just never do this again. Sometimes. Or sometimes they say, wow, you know, how interesting that negative experience could be too. Or they can say, oh, this positive experience, this is how this positive experience have these aspects to it. Why do we want to have the same moral of the story over and over again? Why do we want our stories to have the same anatomy? Why are we using our stories as a therapy? I think it's a waste of stories, because stories can teach us so many things. They can teach us things that we shouldn't do, things that can occur if you do certain things. Like, for example, they can say, hey, if you go this road, this is the results you're gonna get. Without judging, is it bad or good? Just saying. Or, for example, stories that show perspective on one person that might be negative, but it can still load you with a lot of great information. Or the story might have no challenges, because people also give you character troubles that they have to overcome. Otherwise, the story won't be interested. But it's only works for commercial stories that serve just one purpose: to sell your product for this small amount of time, and then you forget about it. Obviously, there are great ideas packed into these structures, but they don't have to. I think, yeah, I have this. My dog sees dreams. I hope you've seen dreams of how you're getting better, girl. Yeah, I hope it makes sense. That's just my opinion. My opinions tend to be sometimes very unpopular, because usually when people say to me, hey, this is how you do things, or this is how they're done, or hey, this is how you make it successful, I'm like, why though? Like, that seems like you didn't really explore other avenues, or why you need the same type of thing all the time. Why? No. How about you just write the story that has purpose, that has meaning? You don't have to structure it like this. Imagine you're talking to a friend, or imagine you're hearing someone recalling on their life. They don't have this structure. They just saying, and they just filtering things out depending on what is meaningful, like which step, how every step of the way progress them further and let it where they are. And I think that's if we choose a structure, this is the structure that we should follow. That we should follow the meaning of the story. We should follow the direction where it takes, and show how it progresses to the point that we want to make. I think that's the main reason. So the stories can come in all shapes and colors. The story can be one sentence. The story can be a million words. The story doesn't have to have a crazy structure to be valuable. We need to rethink this idea a little bit and just think about value that story has to pack. And I wish there were more stories that are very different. If you look at the classic books, or books that make impact, they made impact not because of the structure. They made impact because they had purpose. They made impact because they had something to say. And sometimes something to say doesn't have to go in like this form of like, you start here and then you progress, and then, oh my God, there's a big fail, and then you step up and then you defeat. Like, come on. Come on. I think that's good to just read and to know what options they are, but also ultimately do what you want. Really do what you want. Yeah, you don't have to worry about this, I think. Just follow the meaning of your story and follow the purpose of your story and follow the intuition of what you want to tell with it. If you think the same, please let me know in the comments down below, because I personally a little tired of the structures, and every movie these days, every commercial book that I go and buy in the bookstore is the same thing, and it's so annoying, and I don't want to read them. I want to read something like some weird niche manga, or some random story some indie author created, just because they don't care. They just want to tell you the idea. They just want to tell you something important, and that's what matters. I wrote novels. I published one. I've written two, and obviously I was writing a lot of different stories all over, and I was reading quite a lot, and I'm just not seeing as much value in stories that have structure like this, because I think authors limiting themselves, and they don't tell the truest stories that they have inside of them. They cut away a lot of stuff that actually make it meaningful. They just cut out all the vulnerability and raw aspect of art, I think. Because even if you look in paintings, in fine arts, there's also a lot of rules, like, oh my God, the composition rules, this is how it should be, you have to step up from the bottom more than you have to up from the above. There's like a triangular composition rules all in there. There's like rules like, oh, don't make characters stand backwards. There's a lot of rules, and a lot of artists that did something brand new and cool and interesting, they didn't give a shit. They just did their own thing. Knowing that they exist is great. Knowing them, reading them, being aware of them is great, but ultimately follow the impact you want your story to make. When you create your art, something that is deeply important to you and that you're shy to talk about, that's probably something you should be talking about, because this is something that is valuable to other people, something that is experience unique to you and a point of view unique to you. And this is personally why I read stories. I want to see the world through the eyes of someone else who is not me. That's how I enrich my own perspective and my own understanding. Yeah. Let me know what you guys think, and yeah. Sorry, I guess, for ramble, and I hope you're all having a great day, and yeah, see you in my next video. Thank you. Bye.